computer too, Kristen, is because last time. Nobody will really notice or care.
Oh, there it is.
I do like your hand better than mine, but
I can hear you.
You can hear it?
Mhm.
Okay.
Good.
That works.
You're sharing it. Oh, snap.
No.
Use yours.
Hello, everyone. Hold on.
Lynn, I think you're muted.
There we go. Yeah, Lynn is muted.
Did you hear anything I just said, Joseph?
Yep.
I said, you look very perplexed. And last night when everybody was like, oh yeah, Lynn doesn't has the RBF, the resting bleep face. Joseph, you have it too. You kind of look mad a lot too. He's my husband, by the way.
I was gonna say.
Well, so far, this has been a joyous meeting.
Wow, that's what a wife she.
All right, I'm gonna undo my video. Now, honey, let me ask you, honey, darling, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to stand up here and talk with you, or do you want me to sit down and then just pipe in? You're muted.
I know. Let's see. Whatever you think is best.
You told me you wanted us to
Um,
kind of like bounce off each other, so I just don't want to get off the.
Yeah, who all's in there? Let me see everybody. Not that I don't want to see you.
What did he say? He didn't want to see me? Well, you
I
aren't
said
getting
not.
there tonight.
I said not that I don't want to see you.
Uh-huh. We got her right there, but it's too, like, I can't get everyone. So what do you want me to
All right.
do? Do you want to have me up here or sit down?
You can just, sorry, I'm not sure why that's coming through on my phone. No, we can just sit down and have a chat.
Okay, I'll sit down next to Lauren. That way you see me. It's
Yeah,
important.
They can, is it on the, I mean, can they see me and my screen on the TV? That's the important part.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's all we need to do. So, all right, we got about 1 more minute and we'll, Nancy, I saw that laugh. It's not important that they see me. It's important that they see the screen with the information.
All right. So right now, what's weird is there's no feedback. I guess because I'm on that computer. It's picking me up on that computer. But Mandy, are you
There's
on mute?
feedback.
You are on mute? Okay, then that's why it's not happening. All right, yeah, so it's picking us up from that computer. Can you hear me okay over here?
I can.
All right,
Can you
good.
hear me?
We got the technology figured out. Last week it was a disaster. This week is better.
So, all right. So we're going to talk about the budget model. Welcome, everybody. This is a good crowd. I like it. I like it. I like it. So we're
What's
in
your
week.
first name?
Randisha.
Randisha? Okay, I know everybody's
I
name.
didn't say it right.
What?
Most people don't say it right when they say it.
Oh, so you're saying I said it right?
Uh-huh.
Whoop, whoop. She's the only one that I hadn't met yet, so she's kind of new.
Yeah, I think I met Brandisha. I met you yesterday, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So basically for Brandisha and anybody else who's new to this, this is the MREA series, right? So on Fridays we have a MREA series from 1 to 1:30, and then we're going to follow up with what we call Productivity Warriors, which Lynn will explain when we get in there. And in the MREA series, we followed the 4 models, right? So we have the economic model, which we've been through. If you haven't been through it, that's basically your goal setting model. How many appointments do I need to go on in order to make the money I want to make? And if you haven't set that up, reach out to Lynn and we'll make sure we schedule a time to set that up for you one-on-one. The next one is the lead generation model, which is the one that we spent last week on. The third is the budget model, and then the fourth is the organizational model, which we'll cover next week. So we're going to talk about the budget model today, and we're going to approach it a little bit differently in that we're not going to spend time necessarily setting up your P&L and going into painstaking details about finances, but I want to get the concept across, because one of the things that we've seen.
Joseph,
Yes.
did we explain MREA is Millionaire Real Estate Agent?
Correct. Right. So out of.
Yeah, show the
Yes.
book. There you go.
This book right here. So thank you for the clarification on that. So, but what I want to do is going to go through some big rocks of the budgeting conversation, because one of the pitfalls I see with so many agents in the business is they don't take the financing side of it the finances side very seriously. A lot of commingling of personal funds and business funds, and I'm not saying that's going to go completely away. However, one of the smartest things that Lynn and I did at the advice of someone else was we were very diligent on our finances, especially from the business standpoint. So, and we follow these models in here. So what I'm gonna do is kind of go through some principles of the budget model and kind of have a discussion so we can come up with some action items for you guys, depending on where everybody is in their business. So, so I'm gonna share my screen here. And so what you hopefully are seeing up on your screen is, it says the budget model. Give me a thumbs up if everybody sees that.
Yep, good job.
Okay. So basically this is right out of the MREA Business Planning Clinic, which is basically what we're breaking down in very little portions over these Fridays. And it's going to, next month when we talk about the budget model, we may bring something in specifically like good programs to use for financing. But right now we're just going to kind of cover the overall basics. So what we want to look at is we look at a budget model follows what we call the MREA cash flow, which is right here, which you have your net income that we did with your business plan. Like I said, if you haven't done that, we'll set up a time to go through that. Then you have your operating expenses and your costs of sales. I'm not going to get too bogged down in the details. The two of them together basically are your grand total expenses. And then you calculate from that your total GCI, your gross commission income. That's kind of what everything is based on. You have your GCI, and then from that you take your cost of sales, your expenses, and we'll get into that. What you want to do is you want to look at the budget model as 2 tools in one, right? The first side is your budget, right? This is a goal setting and planning tool that you have. You create it annually. If you haven't done it, this will be a good time for you to do so after you have these basics in here. We'll probably run another official budget planning here in the next couple of months, just for those who weren't able to do it. We did it the first year, and then those of us that also want to readjust as we get to the halfway part. You create it annually. It projects your expected returns, which is a big thing, and then it restrains. It's restrained to gain, meaning it creates a budget where you go out and just start spending money, right? You don't want to go out in there and just start spending. And then the other side, the other tool is the profit and loss, right? This is your management tool and your snapshot. Does anybody, just a quick show of hands, does anybody have an active profit and loss? Like if I said, hey, show your profit and loss, would you be able to pull that out and say, hey, here's what my business looks like year to date? So Jay, that's nice. Anybody else?
Well, you and I have one thanks to you.
Yeah, I have one. So again, it's not the most exciting part of the business, and it's one of the most important, because this profit and loss, it shows your actuals versus your projections, so you know how to adjust. So when we come to these accountability groups, we know how to adjust to say, hey, we're really doing well on this part, or we're not doing well on that part, and it helps us adjust on the goals. But if you don't know, you don't know, right? If you're losing money and you don't know, that could be detrimental long term. If you're making more money than you thought, that could be a good opportunity for you to invest back in your business. And then the two mindset principles we want to look at is invest, don't spend. Think of what you spend as investment. So if you look at it that way, you don't want to go out and just be haphazardly spending in your business. And then practice accountability, not accounting. And what that means is, don't think of your accounting as an obligation. Look at it as a way to give you some guidelines as well as some permission to run your business, right? To go out and spend money on your business when you do make it. Also allows you to prepare for that, right? Long term. So,
well, and the red light, green light thing, I don't know if you're coming to that, but
yeah,
a good way to remember it, this is what I remember when we first got into business, is the concept of red light, green light, meaning you can't go anywhere until you have money. So you have a red light until you have some money, and then you can go spend.
Yeah.
But that's like the red light, green light. It's like a quick way of saying your money dictates what you can actually spend on,
Yeah, and we're gonna jump into that with some more detail. But so the budget terms, right? The next part we talk about is kind of the budget terms. When you hear from the media real estate agent, we have 4 main budget terms. We've kind of talked about these. First one is what we call cost of sale. Right. And the cost of sale is basically the cost of acquiring the sale. What's included in that is just the obvious ones is your split with the market center, right? You have your cap, that's your cost of sale. Things that would be added to that would be any referral fees that you pay out, right? If you're on a team, your cost of sale is what you pay your rainmaker, right? And if you're the rainmaker on a team, your cost of sale is what you pay your agent, right? So your cost of sale is based on your perspective as a buyer. So for instance, if I'm on Lynn's team and I'm the buyer's agent, when she looks at her budget, her cost of sale is how much money I made. My cost of sale is how much money she made, because we're paying it out based on that relationship. Your gross profit, which is also known as company dollar, right? This is the amount of revenue that you have left after you've brought in your cost of sale, right? This is the money you basically you get from the market center. Then you go into your operating expenses, and those are all the expenses that you use to run your business, that you spend on your business. And we'll briefly go through those categories today so you get an idea on it. And then the goal is for you to sit down and say, okay, based on my business plan, what do I need to keep what do I need to use as bumpers basically to stay in the lane? And then that comes down to your net income. Okay. So you basically have 3 main benchmarks on here, which we call it the 30-30-40. You'll hear this referenced often, which means you can run from your GCI, you can look at roughly 30% of that going to cost of sale, 30% of operating expenses for a 40% net income. Now, do you have a question? Yes.
Yeah, is the net income still before taxes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So 2 good clarifications on that. It's before taxes, and this goes back to what we talked about. We actually just talked about this on the regional team meeting. This, like everything we do, we base things on models, right? So what this is from the regional team meeting is, if you build a business, let's say your goal is to do $5 million in volume, and you build systems and tools for a $5 million business, what are the chances you're going to hit that $5 million in volume? Right. I mean, it's good, right? Is there a chance you may not hit the full 5 million if you build systems and tools for 5 million?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a chance on that. Better chance than if you didn't build any systems and tools. The reason that we always focus on the MREA systems and models is, if you build it, let's say you built it for a $10 million business, systems and tools, what are the chances you're going to hit 5 million?
Yeah, better.
Almost guaranteed to do so, right? So that's, and the reason I point that out is so you will think about that from a standpoint of when you see 30, 30, 40, as an individual agent, which most of you in the room are, your net income is going to be higher than 40%, right? You're going to run more lean as an individual agent. Lynn and I, when we, in our business, we run honestly, our net income is closer to 60%. Right? As an individual agent, it could be close to 60 to 65%. So these are models that you base your business around, knowing that they're not a requirement. You don't have to go out and spend 30% of your income on expenses. As an individual agent, your cost of sale is not going to be 30%. It's actually going to be closer to like 12 because you have a cap, right? So that's just something to keep in mind as we build these in here as benchmarks, just to make sure you're staying within the lanes. That makes sense. So did that answer your question? Yeah. And so you would build in, so if you're building in what you wanted your net personal income would be, you'd want to tack on the taxes to that prior to then tacking on the cost of sale and operating expenses. All right, so let's go to sharing back into the screen. So after the benchmarks, we go through the details of everything, right? The cost of sale and operating expense detail. We talked about cost of sale being what you pay your buyer specialist and your listing specialist, should you have a team. And then also your other cost of sale, which is minimal, would be what you pay to your cap or any referral fees that you have. Your operating expenses, and I'm going to not spend a ton of time on this right now because I want to make sure we have a good discussion of the concept before you get bogged down in the details of it, and then don't do any of it. But your operating expenses are really, they're broken down into what we have here, these 9 different categories, but there's really two main categories. Your first one of compensation and lead generation, which makes up a majority of your expenses. And then all of the rest, which are more operational, which all make up a fraction of your expenses here. But your compensation is going to be what you would pay should you hire someone. So you would actually put in there your compensation if you had a transaction coordinator, right? If you had an assistant, obviously they would go there. Lead generation are going to be what you would spend on your lead. So a lot of things that would fall under that lead generation would be what you spend on your AR bill for command, what you spend if you do Facebook advertising. Also part of lead generation is actually broken down into when you buy signs, when you buy your business cards, everything that falls in there. And then everything else is fairly self-explanatory. Your occupancy, education, coaching, supplies, office expenses, communication and tech, your auto. By the way, a lot of people don't put their auto as a business expense. Obviously talk to your accountant, but that should be paid for, and some of it should be paid for by your business. Equipment, insurance, etc. So this is a breakdown of the expenses, which then brings us down. I'm not going to go into the percentages here, which just brings us down to kind of this discussion that Lynn talked about earlier, which is the focus areas when you talk about budgeting. And these are the concepts you want to really get into right away, which the first one is lead with revenue. Okay. Lead with revenue basically means make money before you spend it. Or if you're a simple person like me, the better way to say it is if you ain't got it, don't spend it. Right. I mean, if it's not coming in, you don't need, yes, there will be a couple expenses up front, but you really need to make sure you're leading with revenue before you go out and start writing checks. The area that I see this the most, by the way, just to jump back onto the screen, the area I see this the most is in lead generation. And I think the best way to lead with revenue and lead generation is word it that you want to earn the right to spend money on lead generation. What happens is, and some of you may be doing this, and if you are, there's no judgment, but stop, is we come in and we start spending money on ways to gather leads, but we don't have a good process to follow up with the leads. And so with leading with revenue, the lead generation model really helps you do that, because there are plenty of ways that you can lead generate for free and then earn the right to start paying money for it. The problem is we hear about it and we're like, okay, if I pay for this, I get a couple leads. But if you're not actually doing the follow-up, which is the true part of the lead generation model, you could get into trouble. So just be careful on that one. When we have people, when I was working in a sales director for a team and we'd have people come on to the team, there were benchmarks they had to hit with their systems and they would have to, I mean, for lack of a better way to put it, prove themselves with their follow-up. before we would turn on any sort of money lever for the lead generation. You should treat your business the same, with you being the director of sales and you being the sales agent that's going out and doing the lead generation.
Describe some follow-up. What are some options of follow-up, like smart plans,
Yeah.
command?
Yeah.
Things that you've already paid for to be part of Keller Williams, and you're putting those new leads into those campaigns. So that's
Yep.
technically still free. So you don't, just wanted to unpack that. So it wasn't like, what do you mean follow-up? It's literally
No,
a
100%.
on a campaign.
Well, in addition to that, Lynn, it's a really good point. In addition to that, it's not just the smart plans being started, right? We can all go, listen, I'm the king of this. I won't say Lynn does this. I'm the king of this. I'll go in and I'll start a smart plan, hit go, and bam, I got a smart plan. But if you're not checking in on it and you're not making the phone calls and you're not consistent with it, you don't have a good follow-up system. You cannot just rely on the set it and forget it concept. So you have to make sure that you're building in not only that smart plan, but you've gotten into a rhythm of following up via phone call, text, whatever the two-way conversation is. So it's not just the smart plans as far as the emails are concerned.
Well,
And I would
you have to make sure that you're auditing your campaigns, because hopefully you guys on the computer can hear me, but like for instance, you can have a smart plan that sends them, let's say, a real estate newsletter. Well, after a while, people zone off of that. So what you want to do is figure out, like one thing we have that I like a lot through Command is you can drop people into specific neighborhoods. So you need to make sure also your smart plan, your follow-up is tailored to what they actually want to see. So if you have a real estate newsletter, that's great, but make sure that you go to each individual contact and think, what could I put in the front of them once a week or once every 2 weeks that's an actual area that they want to learn about, because that's going to keep them clicking and then asking me questions about stuff. So you have to drill 3 deep on that too. It's not just in the consultation.
And you don't have to start with that level of detail, and you do have to get there, like Lynn said. And so then the next question becomes is, how do I get that information, Lynn? Like so you say that I should tailor it. Let's just say you're in my database. What's the best way I get the information to find out what's most relevant to you?
Making a phone call, having a conversation, asking questions that are also not just about real estate, but are you a foodie? Do you plug them into, Charleston Restaurant Week and things like that.
100%.
But it all comes with a conversation. But I think if you can have a good, thorough conversation once or twice with someone, that when you do get busy, if you've done the proper tailoring of them and have them plugged into a few things, it will do the heavy lifting when you're not able to call all the time. So it's like, a lot of work on the front end for longer results on the back end.
Yeah. And the point of the question was simply what you said is make the call, right? We get this all the time. It's like, well, I don't have people's address. What's the best way to find them? Well, you could go to the tax records. You could Google them. No, pick up the phone, make a phone call to them, right? Have that conversation. All right. So play red light, green light. Basically what the next part of that is, and to jump back into the budget model, is same thing. Maintain careful spending of money to make money. So when costs start to go up with no results, stop spending them, which, by the way, only happens if you follow this rhythm, which is number 4. It's jumping ahead a little bit. This rhythm of looking at your money. You don't know if costs start to go up. You don't know where your costs are. You don't know how you're tracking them if you don't look at them, right? So when costs go up with no results, stop. And with costs go back into budget, go. Now, I will say, add to this, if costs don't go up, but results aren't there, right? You need to look at that as well, right? Yes, Nancy.
How long, some of these things that involve cost take a while to pay off. How long do you give it to keep trying until you say, okay, this is not working?
Yeah, so that's going to be, it'll be situationally specific, but I don't think there's many things you can make that decision in within 90 days. I think you need to give everything at least 90 days, which is something you need to take into consideration when you budget for it. Right. So 90 days, if you're doing Facebook campaigns, I'd give that 90 days before I made a decision on whether or not they work. Now, if you're looking at doing farming a neighborhood, that 90 days isn't going to be enough time, right? You're going to need 6 months to a year to determine that one. So it's a great question to ask on everything, because that's going to be taken into consideration of how long does my budget allow me to spend this money before I get a return. And then always measure your ROI, your return on investment. Most people are saying they're looking for a 10 to 1. Some people will be fairly concerned, go a little bit more lean on that and say, if I'm getting a 5 to 1, I'm fine with that, right? It comes down to your threshold on that. Stick to the budget. It's having a budget in place is one of the best ways to fend off any telemarketers. Right. Lynn, I appreciate it. It sounds like you have a wonderful program. However, I've already made my budget for this year. I don't have any room on it. So if you want to follow up with me in October, November, when I'm redoing my budget for 2022, please do so. Again, stick to your budget so you're going and out spending money. Now, also understand, this is another, we'll do a face-to-face, right? Remember, every time we turn the camera back on, this is a serious discussion. Remember that, when you set your budget, when you start putting these numbers in here and it's saying, hey, you got to spend 9% on lead generation and you've got a goal of $100,000 in GCI, all of a sudden you're like, well, I have to go write a check for $9,000. No, it means when you have the money to spend from red light, green light, or lead with revenue, I should say, then when you go and spend it, you want to make sure you stay within that budget. Okay, it's not a requirement, it's a guideline. Okay, so just wanted to reiterate that part, because the budget model freaks people out because they're like, wait a minute, I got to go spend this money. No, you can absolutely build a very massive real estate business on a shoestring budget for sure.
And stay underneath that number, and you're even better if you stay really underneath that number.
Correct. Well, and the other thing that happens is you'll start to learn over time is, I made the comment about Lynn and I's margin being pretty high. Normally, though, I will say when you're spending less money, it means you're doing more. So what you'll learn over time. So for us, we had a very high profit margin, but we weren't super leveraged. So our business relies a lot on our doing. Right. And that's kind of the time money thing. So if you want to keep a high margin, you can do that. You just want to make sure you recognize it. Does that mean if you're not having the money run your business, it's having a person run the business? Neither way is bad. You just want to make sure you understand that. And then lastly, the getting into the rhythm. This is the one that's probably going to be the hardest. Everything else conceptually, like, oh yeah, sure, get all that. The getting into the rhythm is probably the hardest one, because you want to visit your money regularly. And if you're anything like me, I don't like visiting something unless it's encouraging me. So right now you look at a profit and loss, and some of you are like, that's great, because all mine is a loss. That doesn't mean you don't continually review it, because you can always be looking at your expenses to make sure you need to adjust them. I go back to the story, Lynn and my story when we got into business together. We 6 months into the business, we were going to make $13,000 that first year. Keep in mind, the year before, I had a really nice salary and she had done really, really well in sales. This was a bad adjustment for us, right? However, had we not been in that rhythm of looking at the numbers, we never would have known that, and we never would have been able to adjust, right? And so that's the purpose of this, is get into the rhythm, examine it regularly. It says weekly, quarterly, and annual. Weekly may be a little much, but I think monthly is too little. So I'd find some time in there. What we'll probably do is we'll get into more in-depth training on the best ways to do this and how we can then start using it to make decisions. But I want to cover these right now before we jump into the mastermind. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything out on this.
Well, and I want to add something to that too. It's like, when you're a new agent, it's like, unless you have a year, they always say, don't get into real estate unless you have a year worth of your bills set aside to be able to sustain your life while you're trying to build your business in real estate. Now, not everyone does that. That's just the best advice to do it, right? So if you're like the majority who don't have a whole year saved, you might be having just your conversation might simply be, it is a given that I'm going to be in the red for, I'm going to be in a deficit, let's say, $5,000 every month. But then what you start watching is when there's a month that maybe you say, oh, the deficit's only, $3,200 this month. So you have to have the reality as well, so you don't get discouraged that you might be in a deficit spot in your beginning of your real estate career. But then, so what you're watching is for you to get out of the deficit, break even, then start making a profit. And that you need to be able to have seen something fruitful in your first year, or else you need to re-examine the industry or your practices in the industry. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're the right fit for the industry. That's kind of my thought. Joseph, what do you think of that? You'll probably say I'm wrong.
No, not at all. I think what that does though is you want to make sure that you're distinguishing the difference between your real estate business's profitability and your lifestyle profitability. Because there's a big difference between the two. And I think this is why it's so important to figure out what that means. So going back to our example, for all intents and purposes, we were running a profitable business. We were. I mean, the business was making a profit each month. The problem was that profit wasn't large enough for our lifestyle. And if you're not clear on these numbers, you don't know the difference. And so you automatically think, well, real estate's not profitable. I don't think it's fair to say it's real estate that's not profitable. It goes back to what Lynn said. Maybe it's you either reevaluate real estate, which we can look not very far to see that it works. So maybe we reevaluate our practices. Sometimes it's business related, sometimes it's personally related. Right. So that's, again, the importance of having the separation here is you can have a very profitable business from a margin standpoint, but understand that may not be hitting your net income goal. That's going to give you the lifestyle that you want. So in the short term, you may have to make some sacrifices personally. So questions, thoughts on budgeting? Yes, Lauren.
Oh, I just like.
Like, please, no, don't call me. I'm not asking any
Not a
questions.
question.
All right, so no one has any questions on that? Does everybody?
Good job, Joe.
Does
Hey,
everyone
thanks.
understand what you just said? Some of the newer agents, do y'all even are you like, what is he talking about? Or did you follow it okay? If I followed it okay? Okay, good. And the good news is you have the book, the MREA, so that you go read it. Hopefully you're reading it. You're in the process of reading it. And I think you and I talked about the fact you're doing that.
Yeah, I'm practically finished with it, but
Good.
yeah, I'm mostly reading psychology and money anyway. So
Okay, good. So, Joseph, are you in the process of wrapping up?
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm not telling you, that's why I've come up here, but I'm gonna turn it and then we can keep talking.
Whoa. Hey. All right.
Oh, I did it the wrong way. Wait a minute, hold on.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, I'm literally balancing it on a trash can. This is how we roll in KW.
We're
All right.
a tech company, people.
All
All right,
okay,
I'm gonna sign off.
all right, so no, everybody's good. Nobody has any questions for Joseph? All right, good job, honey. Now
guys.
you keep working hard so you can support my lifestyle and buy me nice wine.
Okay, will do.
All right, bye. Okay, hey everyone. So we're doing this a little bit differently, of course, where I'm gonna have you guys on Zoom. Nancy and Jeremiah, you two, I can see your faces. Megan, I hope you're there. And Megan and Dominic and I chatted on Monday. Y'all give me a minute. So put on your calendar Monday at 2 p.m. There's a CDP orientation. That's what this program is, the Career Development Program. The orientation is our Mondays at 2 o'clock, and it's a Zoom. That I will talk to you specifically to introduce you to the program, tell you a little bit about what we're doing, and then prep you for next Friday. So you're going to observe today and kind of watch what we do. Then I'll get you in that place starting Monday for the following Friday, if you want. Okay, so this is always a little bit of a challenge because I got people here and I got people here. So hopefully I can make it work where y'all don't feel like you're like looking at my profile. Okay, so Megan and Dominic, all right, so we're gonna start with you two because you were the newer ones. Everyone else is kind of are getting familiar with the conversation. So both of y'all told me on Monday, you sent me your rocks and said, these are the things I'm gonna do. How did y'all do? Dominic, you go first. I'm assuming Megan's there. Megan, let me know if you're gonna be able to interact because I don't want to call on you if you can't interact like that.
Yeah, I can.
Okay,
Sure.
you can. Okay. So Dominic, you go first and tell me a little bit about what if you did what you said you were going to do, and if you didn't, why, and how you feel about all that.
I did what I said I was gonna do.
Okay.
I did 2 out of 3. And so I'll say I give myself like a C.
So you did 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
Why didn't you do the third? What hiccup did you run into? Was it a challenge? Did you set a goal that you thought was going to be easier then, or you were not very disciplined?
I just wasn't disciplined.
And that's everyone's answer. So the point of this whole thing is for everybody that we're always going to be really honest, because there's no pass fail. It's more about knowing how you're going to do inside your own goals to make sure that if you want to keep coming and doing this, that I'm helping you get outside of your own way, or get out of your own way. So you know you weren't disciplined and didn't do it. Now, what I always say is that needs to carry over. So that third one, if you didn't do it, needs to move over to next week. Remember we talked about the notebook.
Yeah.
So if you completed the first 2, that means you have a third that's going to go to next week, and then you have to find 2 others. Or are you going to stay focused on because like some goals are long-term. It might be implementing someone into your database, and it could be 50 people. And so you're going to do like 10 people a week.
Yeah.
So are you going to come up with new rocks, or do those carry over as well?
Most of them carry over. Like 2 of them carry over. Then I'll probably add a different one.
Can y'all hear him okay?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you feel? Why are you encouraged by how you did it, or are you kind of disappointed? What's the conversation around the discipline for you?
Just a little both. Like I knew I could do it, but I just didn't feel like it.
And that's fair. I mean, we're only going to do what we want to do, right? And so that's what I always say is that some people come and say, oh, I'm going to do this. And then they realize I'm actually not going to be committed to that. I'm not. Some people have said, real estate is not how I'm going to I don't need real estate to make money. So it might not be a money driven thing. Then it becomes, well, you just go do what you said you're going to do. That may be your goal. Like, I just want to commit to a new career and see if I can make it happen. You're going to figure that out. And then you're going to tell me, and then I'm going to help you do that, whatever it is. So as it relates to you, I feel that I think we were here when I said last week, like, don't forget that everyone you might have 42 things that you have to do in 1 week, right? But the point of the 3 rocks is for you to identify the non-negotiables.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that when you give me those 3, it isn't really 2 non-negotiables and 1 on the 40 list, right? So there's also just a discerning process, a wisdom process here as a real estate agent to be able to cut through the fluff and know exactly what's going to get your business catching traction. So that's my little spiel to encourage you to keep figuring that out. I mean, you're new, you're figuring it out. That's part of it. So no pass or fail, just more of an honest conversation to make sure we get you hitting your goals. All right, Megan, tell us about you had your 3 rocks you sent to me.
Yep.
Tell us if you hit them, and same questions. If not, why, and what can we do to kind of help you adjust?
Yeah. So I completed, I'd say 2 of the 3. The third was the amount of reading that I wanted to kind of get through and process, and I didn't get through all of it. So that'll carry over. And then I would say it's probably because of, I think I just put too much on my plate more than I could really get through. So that was kind of good to figure out moving forward. And then also just other kind of unexpected things coming into play that kind of ate up some of that time. Yeah. Yeah. And just kind of some of the other things with all the onboarding and all of that I kind of made priority over some of the reading. So I maybe just need to keep that in the back of my mind too when I plan moving forward, that there's going to be some curveballs that come in there.
Well, here's a suggestion. And I'm gonna ask you, but you just made me think something, and I have to say it or else I'll forget. First, are y'all time blocking? Everyone, raise your hands if I can see you. Are you all time blocking for the activity that you told me you're going to do? So let's say you're reading. You have a reading goal. Are you time blocking 30 minutes a day? Is it on your calendar? Everyone? Yes? No.
I feel
okay.
Yeah, for my reading, it wasn't.
Okay, so this is gonna always be the challenge for
Yeah.
for anybody, but a real estate agent. You absolutely have to put it on the calendar. Even, and then this is what I would say to do for you, maybe Megan, and all of us could do it, is create a time block in your calendar that's named curveball. So let's say every day you have a 45-minute gap called curveball that you don't put anything on. You know that it's always going to be like maybe 3:45 to 4:30, 3:45 to 4:30. That time blocking dead space might be a preemptive strike against the curveballs, so that if your Monday gets hijacked and you had something that you needed to do, you either can fit it in Monday at 3:45, or it can go over to the Tuesday 3:45. That's one way that you could make your calendar protect you, knowing that there's gonna, that there are going to be curveballs thrown at you. So that could be a suggestion for that, because that's going to happen. That's always going to happen. You could be driving down the road and all of a sudden, all these different wrecks and things that are happening, you're now locked in your car for an hour. Your whole day changes. You're now racing. That's my point. That kind of stuff can throw you off your calendar. So maybe create a dead space in your calendar. That would be one suggestion. Do you feel good about what you did accomplish? Do you feel like you at least moved the ball down the court a little bit this past week?
Yeah, I do. I feel like in the 2 that I did complete, I would say I probably sacrificed some of the reading so I could do those other 2 things better.
Okay.
So I spent a little extra time on them so I could make sure it was like quality that I was submitting before, so I could feel good about that before moving on and attempting the 3rd.
Okay. So again, that to me is a use of your wisdom and discernment as part of this career of understanding. Like, I may have said something to y'all at orientation. I can't remember, but basically like, you're going to have 53 things you have to do every week, right? And then 3 of them, I'm trying to teach you how to get in the habit of identifying the non-negotiables and sending them to me just so you can see it in writing, and you're going to be held accountable to it in your own business. Then, if after a period of time, you're not getting a lead brought into a pipeline status, right, where you're actually in a real estate conversation, or your pipeline has not turned into an under contract, or an under contract has not turned into a closed, then you need to start going back to those 3 rocks, because something in there is not money making. It's really just like, reading is so important, but if you had nothing but reading all week, you would never sell a house, right? So it's good that you kind of might have said, this day I have to kind of back off the reading commitment because this other one is going to help me pay my bills. So there's a level of figuring that out. And that's why I'm here, is that if you're like, I don't know how to figure that out, and that's what I'm here for. I'm the director of this program, and it's not necessarily a one-on-one coaching every week, but every 4 weeks, I'm going to meet with everyone if they want me to. Like you and I are meeting today. Celeste and I had a phone call last week. I've swapped voicemails with Jeremiah, but it's like, basically, if you need a one-on-one drill down, you need to ask me of that, because that's what I'm here for. But I'm not your productivity coach where I'm going to like chase you down, because I'm busy and I got other things too, and I might forget to pursue you. So it's important for y'all to say, Lynn, I need you. Jeremiah does a great job of sending me texts of questions, and I'll see him and I'll write him back and say, let's set up a call. I'm not available right now. So he knows that I'm going to have the question. I'm going to be able to read it and think about it and then answer him within 24 hours, but it's not immediate. So anyway, that's what I want y'all to do, is to start figuring out who's going to be in your life to help guide you in this process. I'm the director of this program, and then I'm going to set you in a trajectory where you're going to have the right resources. Like Jeremiah will ask me questions about contracts, and some of them I can answer, and then others I'm like, here's Joseph's phone number, our broker. Call him. He's going to know exactly what's not going to get you sued. I don't rely on me for that, So the bottom line is I'm going to point you in the right direction when you need it. Okay, so thank you, Megan, for that. All right, now the rest of them. So Nancy and Jeremiah, I'm going to pause with the Zoom for a second, and I'm going to go to well, you're not quite yet. You two, we're now talking to Lauren and Mandy. How do you feel y'all did?
This week was pretty nuts, but I got my 3 rocks completed. I had a listing go active yesterday for South Carolina listing.
That's
So,
great.
Yeah. I
Wait,
don't even,
it's active.
it's active and we are up to like, it's been active since yesterday at 5 p.m. I think we're up to like 22 showings and 4 offers. So.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting.
Yeah, no way am I complaining about being a listing agent right now. I'm just shocked at how much time I've spent this week on phone calls with buyer's agents. I was like, holy cow.
That's the
I hadn't
thing.
thought
You'll
about
figure
that.
that out. Yeah, that's a good point because a lot of them will call and they'll ask you the questions you've already put in the listing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to start screening
'Cause it's a
those and being
very
like, go read the
prepared
listing, go read the listing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've been a listing agent before, but it's been a while since I've listed one because of our move to South Carolina. So not in this market, and it's an adventure.
Well, that's
But
fine. You
it's
certainly got
exciting.
your toe in the right water.
Yeah, it's an exciting week. So I was happy that my other goal was to time block and actually make all of my time blocked appointments, which I did this week.
Woo,
So
good
that's
for
a
you.
win. And then we had a huge client, my team had a client charity. We did a Earth Day like park cleanup yesterday, and we invited all of our all of Jessica's past clients. I had one to add to the list, but we invited all of them to come to the park cleanup, and a few of them actually came. We were expecting maybe 10 people, and Paul on our team had a bunch of his coworkers at the Navy base come.
Cool.
We had 100 people there. It's
Wow.
amazing. So it was a good week. Although I didn't get a whole bunch of like call lead generation done. It was so good.
So the one thing that you're going to learn and what everyone learns and they go through is a cycle you've heard Joseph talk about. So what will happen is you do all of your proper activities, then you get the business, then the business hijacks you.
Yeah.
And you're like, all of a sudden you're thinking, well, I got to return this phone call because it could be an offer. That's a money-making phone call, right? Then all of a sudden you realize it's been a week and you've been fielding so much for your one client that you've forgotten to make the phone calls to keep the other clients coming at you.
Yeah,
That's just a challenge we all have. But you've just kind of experienced it again in the Charleston area.
Yeah.
So that's probably been good because if I know anything about you is that you learn quickly and then you try to correct the issue. So you're excited, revel in it, have fun with it. But understand, don't be discouraged if in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, you're all of a sudden like, wait a minute, everything's slowed down. They're under contract, about to close. I don't have another client.
Yeah.
It's because right now they're kind of hijacking you.
I
So you'll figure that out.
I will say because of this right here, I actually know like in my head, this has been, I might have 3, I showed houses this week. I might have 3 offer, like 3 go in escrow this week, which is awesome. But I actually know in the back of my mind right now that I'm supposed to have 4 new appointments a month. And I haven't had a new appointment yet, like a brand new client. And in my business before, I would have been in the same situation, but I'd have no idea that I haven't had a new appointment.
Oh, that's
Like
good. I
I'd
mean,
be
that's
completely
encouraging.
distracted by the, I'm gonna have 3 offers. This is or 3 contracts. This is fantastic,
Right.
and forget that we're 3rd week of April and I have had no new client appointments.
All right.
If
So
that makes sense.
Megan, Dominic, everyone else on this. So all of y'all are learning that she's been in it now for a solid 6 weeks, I think.
This
CDP.
Mhm.
So some of the newer peeps who are coming in right now, that should be very encouraging to y'all that you're overwhelmed right now. You're trying to get all of your ducks in a row. I'm trying to help you filter out the most important versus everything else. And then 6 weeks from now, you're hearing that you're going to have someone in the back of your mind keeping you on track so that you don't ever lose that momentum. So I just thought that was a really good testimony of sorts because we just started this program. I think that now I feel it's really good, but in the beginning, we didn't really know what we were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew I was going to get in front of people and say, you need to do what you're supposed to do. Why aren't you? And how can I help? So your goals are your goals. I don't remember any of them, but I'm going to remember how to ask you the questions of, are you staying in the business? Or are you staying in the money-making part of it? So good. That was a good testimony because that's the killer of most real estate agents is they get so overwhelmed with business and then all of a sudden they can't pay their bills the next month because they forgot to stay in the lead generating portion. So anyway, good reminder. All right, Mandy, tell us about you.
I hit all 3 of my rocks.
Yay.
And I know for myself, when I'm in business, I'm in it 100%. So I was disappointed that I wasn't able to meet with someone for coffee last week. So I did 2 coffees this week to try to make up for it.
That's perfect. That's erased and replaced, you know?
Yeah.
It got erased, so you replaced it by doubling up. That's how you're gonna beat that balance.
Yep. So I had coffee with a business owner, coffee with a friend in a neighborhood that I wanted to look at. And then I also set up, I don't know anything about Mount Pleasant. So I set up drinks with an agent that's here in our office just to sit with her.
I will come join you.
And talk about Mount Pleasant because I have clients interested, and I don't know a lot about it being in Somerville. I feel like we're so far away from everybody.
Well, you got your own little world up there. I mean, like it's like I told you how I'll go to Paulie's. It's closer to me than where I live. I'm so far in Mount Pleasant. I'm almost to Georgetown, I feel like. But I love going up to Somerville and going to the little proper and get to know all that. So I totally get what you mean. But you got your own cute little city up there.
Yeah.
You want to do? Are you doing previews? Are you walking through houses as well? That might not be a bad idea. Maybe twice a week.
In Mount Pleasant.
And you schedule it like at 10 versus in the morning with the traffic or around 2.
Mm-hmm.
Do like a 10 a.m. walkthrough of properties, you know, maybe get you in some neighborhoods.
Yeah, I found this really niche market of people that are moving here that are looking for like power lines to stay away from. Like it's a small market, but I mean, I have like probably 10 in the pipeline just this month of people moving, looking to stay away from that stuff. So I need to just explore like where the 5G towers are, where the factory, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I'll refer anyone who says that to you. I would have no idea how to do that. That is a very special market.
There's not a lot of agents that I'm finding that know that. So I know where those stuff is located. I don't know where neighborhoods are that have kids, you know what I mean? So it just kind of like, I want to sit down with this agent and be like, okay, show me on a map where neighborhoods are that have community, that are kind of like master planned if there's any. What are some just, what are the price ranges here in these big communities, like stuff like that. And it's just going to be driving them.
Good.
I think around. That's one area that I just don't know.
Staying away from what?
Like
5G towers, power lines. I have an EMF reader in my purse at all times. I mean, it's
Stay away from them?
Yeah, because there's a radiation that comes off at a certain distance. So there's just, some people are.
I'm already screwed. So I've probably grown up underneath one.
Some people are want more distance from it than others. So those clients know that I understand that. Landfills, how far to be away from them, stuff like that.
Well, then the good news is you can build a book of business around that and find your own scripts and find out how to market that.
I have. It's been.
That's a great idea for 2021.
It's been a really crazy venture for sure. And the other one, I mean, I have that pipeline and then just my neighborhood. So that was one of my rocks, is to research how to farm your neighborhood. But a lot of the Keller Williams ones that I found, the videos were door knocking. And I know my personality, I'm not going to be successful at door knocking because it's not who I am, but I have been really successful with, I know it's torture for me too, is putting out videos in my neighborhood. Hey, I got one listing for my neighbor, which led to 3 more listings. So it's putting out those videos and talking to neighbors. And so I look for a bunch of different areas. So I did a ton of research on that, of how to market just my neighborhood. So I found great stuff on that.
What about, so I remember last week we talked about scripts at coffee. What did you use any of those scripts? I want them to hear.
Yeah.
What are you talking about at coffee and how is it going?
So the one, I had one business owner in my neighborhood. So I'm looking right now for women business owners. Not that I won't have coffee with a man at all. I mean, that's fine, but I definitely want to reach out to women, just sit on their porch and have coffee with them, business owners in my neighborhood.
That's awesome.
Because
so you're building a partnership with other people trying to build a business. So
Yes.
it's not, I'm going to sell you real estate as much as let's empower each other.
Yep.
So I wanted y'all to hear that, is that like we talked about, you don't have to have coffee and say, do you want to buy a house?
Right.
Coffee is about finding where you can build a partnership on some level. Was it you who was in the Chamber of Commerce?
It was.
And you were sitting over there though.
Guess who forgot to follow that up?
Oh, snap.
And just realized it when you said that.
Make a note. That's no big deal. It's only been a week.
Yeah.
You'll be amazed if you're
why
like.
I wrote follow up on next week.
So that's a good idea though, because I'm not a good idea,
That's
but
a question.
Yeah. Hi.
Yes,
Is
Nancy.
it Andy? Is that, yes, my name's Nancy Williams. I'm new. I just moved here a week and a half ago. I moved into a neighborhood. I would love to market my neighborhood. So I would love to hear, there are 3 other realtors who live in this neighborhood, which I found out. But I'd love to find out what your ideas of marketing the neighborhood are and what your research showed you and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's been fun, Nancy. There's 2 others that are bigger names in my neighborhood, and they're posting stuff that's turning people off on our page. Hey, look at my Mount Pleasant condo, which has nothing to do with their neighborhood. And people are like, why are they doing that? Or so I definitely found having neighbors post if I have listed a home or sold a home, like letting the neighbors, and a lot of times they're just doing that anyway. Hey, I used Mandy, we got this house under contract, last week. So people are seeing that, oh, hey, and it's just like we talked about last week, reputation building. I try to go to the parks and meet people, any activity. There was a BMX bike jumping like show. And I just tried to, that was my goal, to touch 2 neighbors, just go and talk to them, even familiar, hey, and then try to organically bring up that, I was a realtor. And it's crazy because I'm getting listings in my neighborhood and people listing and then buying other homes in my neighborhood. So, and not one of them have asked how new I am in this business, and it's 100% trust. So, I mean, I'm talking like I know everything to my neighbors, but honestly, I just closed on my first, and then I have a buying closing next week. They have no idea. So it's funny that experience, people, when they trust you, it's not about experience. I mean, obviously it is so helpful to know all the things, but it's really in the neighborhood, I'm seeing that it's more of this trust, that they trust me. Not one person that I've met with has asked how much time I've been in this business.
I mean, I've been in the business over 20 years, but I've been here for 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of like opposite from what your experience is. Mine is, I'm not from here and I haven't lived here. So
I'm not from here either. We just moved here as well.
Oh, where'd you move from?
Upstate New York.
Oh,
Toronto, Canada.
oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I think the main thing, Nancy, what we heard is what the takeaway is the same. I always like the rule of 3 because it's manageable. So Nancy, if you are in a neighborhood that you live in a neighborhood, you're new to it, write down as many things that you now know you love about the neighborhood. Like, you're from another region. You might not have ever seen a certain flower that's blooming now because you never saw it bloom where you just moved from, right? Find things that you love in your neighborhood, then make a rule of 3 that you're going to talk about 1 or 2 every week, or 3, but that might be too many, but like 1 or 2 this week, and then have a following where maybe every Monday you post about that specific plant, and then you go read about, like my aunt is a master gardener. She lives in Sumter, South Carolina, so like not near me. And every time I have any questions about my plants, I take a picture, I post it on Facebook so she can see it. I tag her in it. I say, Pat, tell me what to do. And then I say, anyone who's interested in bougainvilleas, pay attention. And that actually isn't a real estate thing for me. I just really like attention. No, I'm kidding. I really do. I was like, everybody learn about bougainvilleas. So she's like, okay, you need to go get bone meal from Lowe's. So what you do then, what you could do with that idea is start tracking how your bougainvillea is doing with the bone meal. And every week you take a picture. That's just an idea. But my point is think of what you love in your neighborhood and start talking about that, but don't overwhelm people. That's what, to me, the balance, right?
Oh yeah.
Just an example, I posted in my neighborhood page asking everyone where the best place to get crab rangoons is because I'm obsessed with them. And there are still people that like comment or like remember me for this question about crab rangoons. So it's completely unrelated, but that our neighborhood Facebook page has been a big help in this other agent's business in my neighborhood. But same sort of thing. I think she's starting to kind of get on people's nerves.
That can happen.
Because I've had people say, like, I thought I was gonna have to walk into this listing appointment that I just got and really compete with her because the sellers know her, and they didn't even interview her.
It's reputation building. One person could have wanted that crab rangoons and like,
Yeah.
oh, I trust her. She likes them too.
Well, and the thing that I'm coming back to me, because I'm going to ask.
Genuinely trying to make friends in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
is my.
It's reputation building.
Well, if what? If you leave? No. Mm-mm. If you leave, we're gonna throw things at you. Yes, is it 2:15? What time is it? I hope you're not leaving because you thought it was miserable.
I'm definitely gonna.
So
come
we'll see
Monday.
each other Monday on the Zoom, and I'll get you going so that I can ask you these questions next Friday, and then you'll engage more. in
I
the
am
conversation.
still trying to figure out Command and Connect.
Yeah, me too. And I've been doing it for 4 years. Are you going to What the Tech with Jay on Wednesdays, I think? There's a class called What the Tech on Wednesdays. So will you write down my email? I want you to email me because I'm going to send you some stuff that you can be reviewing over the weekend. All right, Jeremiah and Nancy, y'all have kind of been off and on a little bit with your rocks. I don't want to leave you out. How do you feel do y'all want to share today, or are you good because all right, Nancy, go.
So now that I'm here,
Unmute.
I am unmute.
I think you're muted.
No, I'm not muted.
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me?
Can y'all hear me?
You can't hear me? Can you hear me now?
All right, Nancy, I don't know what to say. Jeremiah, talk. Let me see if I can hear you.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
Yeah, let me turn mine off.
This happened last time.
Yeah, it did.
Did you hear him?
Can you hear him on yours? Hold on, y'all.
Ever talk?
Somebody talk.
Hello? Can you hear me? No?
All right, well, we can see you and we can hear you there. Let me give you my email.
I can hear you great.
I can hear you. Hi, how are you? How's life? What's Kanaloa?
Kanaloa is the South Pacific god of the sea.
Oh, cool.
It's something that means a little something to me from my time in Hawaii in the South Pacific.
I assumed it was Hawaiian of some sort because it sounds Hawaiian.
Yeah. Then you get the hook and the octopus too.
Oh wow. Now are you new here as well?
I'm at 14, 15 months now.
Okay. I'm 2 weeks, so not even.
Yeah.
So really new. Oh well. How you say this? Are you new agent, or have you been an agent for a while?
No, KW was my first. I got licensed about 1.5 years ago and have been with them from the start.
Yeah, KW's good. I'm up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania as well, so and New Jersey, but liking it here better. Although the storm tomorrow is getting me nervous. I don't know. Should I get nervous about the storm tomorrow?
I don't think so.
Up there
I sat through quite a few hurricanes in Hawaii too, though.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Well, now Lynn is gone completely or something. They're all muted. That's so
Yeah,
weird.
maybe she's just relogging in, huh?
I don't know.
All right,
Oh, she just turned her camera off.
Yes. Hello, Lynn?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I
I'm
can hear
coming. I'm talking to y'all from Mandy's now.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll do this real fast. Now that I'm here, Joseph and I were talking while we were hanging out. Now that I'm here, I can change everything, and now I have like more than I need, so I need to kind of limit it. My goal now is there is a neighborhood Facebook page. I'm on it. I like what you said about posting something, so I've taken some pictures of like the turtles and the gator in the pond behind my house. So I will maybe 1 a week do that. So maybe I'll do that. And also my goal is to meet maybe 3 new neighbors a week. So I'm going to change my rocks. I'll email you my rocks, but they've changed completely now that I can actually do something here.
Yeah, I mean, you had to get here. That was tough. You just made me think of something like with the whole gator thing, like what could be fun too, is you could figure out a way, like, how could you have a contest in your neighborhood? Like you couldn't technically weigh the gator, but I'm thinking right now that hypothetically, like if you said this gator, you knew weighed 1,000 pounds, let's say, and whoever guessed closest to it would get like a Starbucks gift card, like, or maybe you do something that you can actually touch and not be killed by, like a flower or a turtle. Like who knows what kind of turtle this is? What's its Latin genus? Like you could do something like that with things in your neighborhood to get activity going that's fun because people love and they're competitive. So be thinking about that. That could be something you do where they have to report to you their information to get the $5 gift card or the $10 gift card. Again, red light, green light, but I would imagine maybe $10 a month is money well spent. If you have people in your neighborhood getting your information and then giving you theirs so they can get their stuff.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to say when we were all talking, and Jeremiah, then we're going to go with you in a minute. What you have to remember about real estate is it literally, like, real estate is this. You have to be a human. You have to know how to research everything, because if you think about it, everyone started somewhere. And quite frankly, like I just told y'all how I was down in Pawleys, I am familiar with the town because I grew up there, but I don't know anything about their real estate. All I have to do is go read about it, right? Click on, start researching comps, figuring it out. I'm going to be able to advise them on a house in Pawleys, regardless of whether or not I've been there for 54 years, right? So every real estate agent starts somewhere. All you have to do is be persistent about learning and learning what you need to learn to advise. Be a human. That's what I talk about in my buyer consultation. You need to be able to ask questions, but also listen and then stop and say, oh, you just answered a question in a way that makes me want to ask a different one, right? So have like intuition. And then your last job is to make sure your clients are not stressed. So the way I go through my real estate career and my transaction is every time, like I'm the gatekeeper, right? I'm hearing from an agent and I'm hearing from a client. And the agent will often tell me something the seller has said. They may y'all don't forward emails, by the way. If I forward emails, I delete everyone's contact. So it just says it's from Jane Smith. But it has I don't even do time of day or anything, because sometimes they may email you at 9 a.m. and you're with clients until 4. You don't want your clients to think you just ignored it. You just haven't been able to. So if you do forward emails, make sure you remove all contact info. I actually just had an agent write me about my transaction with my buyer, and he wrote an emotional sentence in there. He said, here's the rub, we're struggling with this. This agent is a guy, no offense, because I'm like, you're so emotional. You're like a girl. But he wrote me and said, your client made an agreement and he's not honoring it, which is not true. So I held him accountable to that. I was nice about it. But when I forwarded the verbiage, because I needed my client to read the different details, I totally deleted that sentence because I do not need to stir up my client, right? So me being the gatekeeper, I always, when I get information from any party, I think, does this help anyone, or does this upset or stir up someone if I let it go out of my mouth? And so that's your last job as a real estate agent, is to manage these transactions. So our logo is an exceptional experience. That's because years ago we decided what we kept hearing wasn't, everything. You literally, I never ask you something you can't answer. That's not my skill set. You took, like, I don't even know. I'm sure there was a lot more going on than I knew about. And it was just a lot less stressful than I've heard it can be. So to me, that became that's my job. That's my goal as a real estate agent. And if I get paid, that's even better. But my passion for the industry was to make sure people don't have miserable experiences, because buying houses and selling houses are supposed to be somewhat fun. And it also can literally fund your life. If you have 3 houses by the time you want to retire, you could sail around the world and the houses are paying your income because you have tenants. So I look at that. So that's my point, is back to what Mandy was saying, is that you don't have to be an expert, but you have to be persistent in learning. You have to be so smart and try not to steer anyone towards stress, manage all the stress for your clients, and be a human. Listen after you ask questions, and then you will be the best real estate agent. You'll be the best. All this stuff we're doing, all these rocks, all of that, it's for us to know where our bus is going to make the money. But at the end of the day, if you do the 3 things I just said, you're going to be fine in this industry. Sometimes we overthink it. Okay, that was my little preach for the day. All right, Jeremiah, why don't you share with us how you're doing? If you won't, you can do thumbs down if you don't want to.
I can share.
Okay. Cool.
I told you, but I can tell everybody else. I I had priorities set on Friday, and by Tuesday morning they were realigned by life. Um, I kind of backed up and had to focus on breaking down some mental blocks for myself. So I haven't actually lead generated since maybe September because I had some natural pipeline happening and I didn't want to oversaturate myself anyway.
That was pretty
So
smart.
as that pipeline has progressed and now I'm looking at like what's going to be happening in the next 2 to 3 months, I was like, okay, let's start loading it again. So it's been a while since I've had to make those lead generation phone calls, and that's not a strength of mine. So I kind of just made it my only priority. I literally didn't do anything else for a few days except respond to leads immediately when I got them. And that just kind of let me manage my own mental state so that I could make that phone call happy and confidently. And like, you know, 98% of the time it's either going to be a wrong number or you're going to leave a voicemail because people don't answer unknown numbers these days. But it's still,
Right.
for me, for me, it generates a lot of anxiety. So after 4 days of making, right now I'm at 25 leads off of that campaign. And the first round of them, I called them all immediately. And then yesterday morning, when it went under contract, I just marathon called them all, just as a
Wow.
second touch. Right? It was a reason to have a second touch with them. Hi guys, I just want to let you know, the house that you were interested in is under contract, but we can keep looking for the next one. You know, just a reason to talk to them again. And by the time I did the marathon call list, and I'm pretty comfortable with it now. I still don't want to do it. It's not my favorite, but I'm at least comfortable enough to dial the numbers and make it. So that's my big win for the week.
I love that. What?
Is it personality for, what's his name, Jeremy?
Jeremiah.
Jeremiah, is it personality for you? Like, do you feel like you're like an introvert and it's just hard, or it's just, I mean, what reasons do you feel? Because I haven't even gone there yet as far as like just mass callings. I honestly don't think I could.
I'm absolutely an introvert.
Okay.
That is definite. I struggle connecting with people that I can't make eye contact with because I rely very heavily on reading body language, and that makes me comfortable to know if I'm making them comfortable. So on a phone call, if I feel like I'm bothering them and I can't get a very good read on them, I get just a little bit uncomfortable because I don't know how someone is interacting with me.
And you want to
so
get
much-
off the phone.
That makes so much sense. I've never realized that the reason I hate phone calls so much is because of how much I rely on
Yeah.
like nonverbal communication. But yeah,
Wow.
I hate
Thanks for
phone
sharing,
calls.
Jeremiah. That's powerful.
People I know on the phone.
Yeah.
Like people I don't know, I'm cool with it. But people I know, I'm like, I don't talk to you.
He was saying that he's more comfortable with people he doesn't know than those he does. And that's actually funny. When Joseph and I used to do a lot of the different lead generating tactics, I hate making phone calls. I hate asking for business. But if I were having an open house, door knocking to tell people about it, not a problem. Because they're strangers and I'm doing something and it's like, hey, I know I'm not selling you anything. I'm just telling you what's happening on Saturday. There's a psychology to it. Yeah, that something with all of us on some level. But what we need to take from what Jeremiah said, which I think this is important. I've had to do this too. Sometimes just the exercise of powering through it will create some muscle memory of it wasn't as bad. So then your anticipation is not maybe nearly as barbed when you go to do it again because you got through that first really uncomfortable power through. So I think that's so good that you're saying now you're approaching it a little bit less trepidatiously. I think that's a word, but we'll go with it.
I'd go with it.
I think
It sounded like a
something
word.
smart.
I just
A lot
learned
of
someone I
syllables.
didn't know. So
So I mean, that's you powered through it. You like that right there is That's the key to making a real estate agent, is going and doing the things you don't want to do, because at some point those things will start to be fewer and fewer. But in the beginning, you have to do the things you don't. So there's this great exercise. Let me get a piece of paper. There's this great exercise that Joseph does, and it's a really good visual. No, I don't need to write anything, but thank you. Can everybody see the piece of paper? Okay, so these are all of your lead generating, all the things you can do to lead generate, right? You've got 32 things written, let's say. Well, I don't really like that, so I'm not going to do that. I don't really like that, so I'm not going to do that. And I'm not really good at door knocking. And then I don't really, this is too big of a paper. I don't really like this is this. So my point is, you're going to get to where you better be really good at this one thing. Because if you're not going to do all these, which is totally fair, as a real estate agent, you get to decide what you do. But if you just say, I can only do one of the 7, you need to be really good at this. So you got to do all of the lead generating tactics to decide which one am I going to actually do consistently. And then that's it, right? That's going to make your business. So I learned that I'm not good at cold calling, like for sale by owners or whatever. But I made myself door knock and do open houses, because I'm really good with people. I'm really good in person. I'm better in person than I am on the phone. I'm real awkward. Same thing. If I feel like I've bothered you, I want to crawl in a hole. Now I still did it, but I wasn't as successful. And I learned that when I got physically in front of people, that's why I started networking. Remember I told y'all how I started doing a lot of networking? I realized that if I just showed up in front of people, cracked a few jokes, and then they realized I was approachable, and then I also am smart. Like, I could talk about real estate articulately. That's not a word either. I could articulate real estate well. That created its own following. So learn your passion, learn your skill, and then nail it. So, you're going to figure that out, Jeremiah. At some point, you're going to say, I don't have to call anymore. Because I've learned how to do this so much better that the calling is not maybe what I have to do as much, but you got to kind of do the grunt work in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I got to the point where my pep talk before the call was every call not made is a no, and I'm going to make them tell me no.
Oh, good. That's a good one. I like that.
So, and realistically, the 2 people that out of my 24, 25 that did answer the call and we had a 2-way communication, they were yeses. So, at the end of the day, there was never really anything to be anxious about to begin with. It's just that personal mental block. We as humans, as humans, I think we make up our own worst scenarios and tell ourselves that story until we figure out otherwise. And
yeah, I think that that's so important. What you'll learn, what most people learn, is people are actually a lot nicer on the phone than you think. Here's another thing that I used to do to help me through that is I would say, you have to call 3 people you don't have a relationship with or you don't know well. And then on your 4th, you get to call a past client because they're going to like you and be nice and excited to hear from you. So kind of rebuilds what might have been like awkwardly. I think about the acid when you're working out. It's like that acid builds when you're making like uncomfortable calls. So then you can all let it go when you talk to someone who likes you or knows who you are and has a good memory with you. There are so many different ways to skin the cat, so to speak, on how to mentally get over not doing some of the stuff. And you said something else that was really smart too, about that you've got so much going on right now, or you had enough going on, that you decided not to stir things up so that you didn't overwhelm yourself. Ironically, everyone is asking in my life, are you just slammed at work? Are you just so busy? And what I say to them is, no, I'm not. It's not a good answer. And that is, no, I'm not one of the ones running around with 30 new contracts, because I'm focusing on this. I'm focusing on other things. And so my transactional business is a little bit slower, right? However, Joseph's like, well, we really need to get Saltmarsh going again. And he's busy. Like, we both are wearing very different hats than we were a year and a half ago. Not just because of COVID, but he wasn't the broker of 2 offices a year ago. So I'm helping him get back to the agents. And now I'm focused on this program. So in my opinion, I said to Joseph, I don't know that I want to stir up business, because then I'm going to all of a sudden be not available to the people currently saying, great, you're available to help me. So you have to make choices like that. Like, I will survive. My real estate will come back, or, I'm still writing contracts, but I don't want people to think I'm out of the business, because when they ask me, I'm always like, no, I'm not that busy. But it's not because I'm choosing to step a little bit away because it would take me from y'all. This is very important to me too, because I'm part of this market center. I want all these new agents to kill it, right? And be where they are, where I am 12 years from now, saying, I've got the right foundation, so this is my career the rest of my life. Like, that's the goal. Okay, so lots of philosophy today. Everybody feeling good? Before we kind of get to the end of our session, we talked about our rocks. I think we had a great discussion about all the different things. So what is everyone's homework?
Rocks.
Send me your rocks by Monday so that you know what your clear path is. You have a follow-up to do with Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
And then anything you didn't do last week, move to the next, and make sure if that feels, I don't know if Megan's still on it yet. So Megan, same thing. It's like, if you had a goal of reading 100 pages last month or last week, maybe read 120 this week. If you can fit it in your schedule, because don't forget, you made the right decision. The reading a reading is an ongoing, always learning real estate's job. You should, like, when we do bold, like some other big classes, we all put, like, you're supposed to pick one book a month. That's the book you're going to master, and then you move on.
Yeah, I said an hour each day.
You set an hour to read each day on real estate stuff, or just learning?
Most of it real estate focused, business focused, mind, atomic mind, and stuff like that.
All right. So if anybody
Heard
needs
great
any,
things
like,
about that.
immediate smarts, just go sit with Dominic. He's clearly well read. But anyway, you can, like, figure that out where you have certain things you're supposed to be reading. But if you decide, well, my business is picking up, then you can back off of your reading goal and decide to say, all right, as long as I finish the book by the end of May, and then you figure out how to break, 300 pages between the days. Okay. I think that's good. Anybody have any more questions, thoughts, concerns, ahas, challenges? No? Don't forget, I have my one-on-ones with everyone. Every 4 weeks, I sit with people either on the phone or whatever. You and I are meeting after this. So don't forget to call on me for that if you need it. So Nancy, like next week, if once you get a little bit more settled and you want me to drill down on you, you just let me know. Same thing, Megan. You don't have to wait for 4 weeks. That's just a good assessment. It's like every 4 weeks, I want you to know you've met with me, or at least said to me, Lynn, give me some time. I need a little bit of a tweak to my road, right? That's kind of what I'm here for. All right. Well, I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. I'm going to go home and pass out because I'm exhausted. All right. Bye. Y'all have a good day and a good weekend.
You too.
I'm going to give this back to you. There it is. I see leave.